I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into an epic saga. It is a book called Immigrant Family, 3 Centuries in America. It is written by Norman Kelker. This book tracks the Kelker family from a harrowing 1743 voyage to their rise across 10 generations, intertwining the very fabric of American history. Join us as we explore the triumphs and trials of a family that mirrors the nation's own story. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Norman, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
I thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure for me to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I think a lot of people have curiosity about their ancestry nowadays. We do the DNA tests, we look up the records here and there. But your family history is quite extraordinary because it's linked with the timeline of America, really, beginning in 1743. Is the history of your family something you always knew about or something you researched specifically for the book?
It's something I researched specifically for the book based on, well, when I retired, I needed something to do, and my curiosity about my family kept growing in me. And so I was very fortunate to have extensive archival material to work from. And with that benefit, I was able to I had great resources, so I was able to put together fairly detailed stories about my ancestors.
Where was this archival material that you were able to tap into?
Well, in 1883, one of my ancestors produced a genealogy which went way back to ancestors in Switzerland into about 1600. I had access to the Historical Society of Dauphin County, which is where Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is located. They had 18 boxes of my family archives from the ancestors who lived there for 4 generations. And I discovered newspapers.com, which had an extensive coverage of my family. And I had, since they were fairly prominent, they were in the news, and that was a great benefit.
But tell us about some of the roles that your family played in society that they'd be newsworthy.
Well, I think the most interesting character in the book is a man named Alexander Ramsey, who was born near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, grew up to be a lawyer, practiced a little bit in Harrisburg, was elected to the House of Representatives from his district in Pennsylvania. He was appointed the first governor of the Minnesota Territory in 1849, and he was sent there with essentially the mission to get the land away from the Indians. And he served as later as mayor of St. Paul. As a governor, the state Minnesota became a state in 1858, and he was governor. And then in 1862, he became senator, and he served 2 terms. His hallmark was that he signed 2 Indian treaties, which essentially took great areas of land away from the Indians to put it in the property of the U.S. government. And he later was able to remove essentially all the Indians from Minnesota. He did some good things, but he did some not so good things.
Right. Although in that era, I mean, we judge them by today's standards. In that era, that was the thing to do. His job was to remove Indians. And
yes, yes. That was the government's objective, to move west, move the white settlers in, and move the Indians out.
Yeah, exactly. This must have been fascinating to you, finding out about people like Ramsey in your family that you probably never knew existed your whole life. A lot of discoveries for you, right?
that was a fun thing about putting the book together, that there were so many things turning up that were really interesting. Not just Ramsey, but other people. Um, um, it starts, of course, with the immigration to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Dutch country. There are 4 generations there, and then the family starts to spread out. And I end up with two members of my family. My first cousin was a very prominent scientist, engineer at NASA, and his daughter also was she was actually chief scientist at NASA, and she served later as director of the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., and then as chief scientist for NASA. And so there are a lot of things that turned up which I knew nothing about, which I was able to put together in the stories.
Amazing, amazing. Now, the book begins with the journey in 1743. Tell us a little bit about that journey and tell us about how you found out about that journey.
Yeah, I found an excellent reference about immigration from immigration from Switzerland to the United States. Everybody asks me, well, why did they leave? And I don't know the answer. I think it is because living in Switzerland at that time, you were living in an autocracy. And if you were in the nobility, you were having a great life. If not, your life was kind of miserable. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the reason, although I don't know. They left with, the family left with the husband and wife, Heinrich and Regula Kuliker. It was a Swiss name. Mm-hmm. They took their 5 children, 3 of whom died on the 28-week voyage to the United States. They settled in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with absolutely nothing, Pennsylvania Dutch country. And they were successful. They started a life. They had a farm to provide their living, and from following from that was a lot of interesting stories.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. And some of the people you've encountered during your research, one was a traffic engineer who built Chicago's first subway. Yeah. So one of the people you came across was actually a soap opera actor. Tell us about him.
Well, Robert Kelly, who had a difficult time starting his career. And like most actors, he was living without he was on the street, mm-hmm. Desperately trying to get a job. He finally caught up with an agent who got him a role in I think Another World, which was a classic soap opera. It might still be going, I don't know. And he spent his career in the soap opera business. Well, he was on Another World, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, had major roles in all of those operas.
Soap operas, yeah.
And then he suddenly gave it all up and became an airlines pilot. He went to airline school, got himself trained, and he knows everything about safety and flight preparation, and he's now a functioning airline pilot.
Amazing, amazing. It's kind of a rags to riches story where he was on the streets almost looking for work, found work, got success in acting, and then decided to do something else, which is, I guess, equally as exciting. Flying a plane is certainly a thrilling pursuit as well.
And he had some interesting adventures along the way, which I relate in the book.
Yep, absolutely. Now, finding what stories and what people to tune in on is the tough part, because I did my ancestry.com, and once you get past a few layers, there's so many cousins, you know. Absolutely. How were you able to target the people that were of particular interest?
Well, my criterion was they had to have lived this interesting life or done something interesting. Something would have an appeal in a story. And I was fortunate to find within my resources, within my archival material, that I could find those people. Now, if somebody was a farmer and never gained prominence or did anything very exciting, I would just disqualify him,
Right.
or her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that was wise, and you were lucky you did have a family that was rich with prominent people for sure. What do you hope viewers and readers get out of your book?
Well, I hope they find interest in the lives that I wrote about.
Mhm.
Um, I hope they are interested, they find interest in them. I hope they're amused by some of the stories. And I get it. I hope I tweak their curiosity a little bit and work uh, to make a good story for them.
Absolutely. You're a great storyteller. You had a lot to work with there. You had some wonderful stories that you were able to research and put together and tell the audience, that's for sure. And it also raises a question for a lot of people like myself and others. Well, what about my family? What have my ancestors
Yeah,
done? And you
I should have mentioned that because I did want to tweak the curiosity of the readers to look into their own family histories.
exactly, yeah. And there are amazing stories and that all of us have on one level or another. The name of the book is Immigrant Family, Three Centuries in America. It is written by Norman Kelker. It's an amazing book. It tracks his family from the beginning, basically, of the United States, a harrowing voyage back in 1743. And he watches and follows their rise across 10 generations. His story is America's story, and it's a fascinating one. Norman, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
I thank you for having me. It was a delightful experience.
I enjoyed speaking to you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.